Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I'm Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Hey, we did this video a few days ago where we talked about, hey, with the new year comes some new gun laws going into effect January 1st of 2024. All of those were created through House Bill 1143. We'll link up that video down below if you want to geek out on all of the details. One of those pieces that we talked about was a new background check system. That's right, effective January 1st of next year, 2024. All of you who have to go through a background check to purchase a firearm, you'll be going through a different type of background check than you've ever gone through before, or will you? I don't really know actually now, and I'll explain why. So today, let's spend a few minutes and let's talk about Washington's new background check system and what it means to you. Okay, so what we're talking about is some of the new legislation going into effect January 1st, primarily created through House Bill 1143. Now, as we know, currently, if you are purchasing a firearm in Washington State, you will go through a NICS background check. That is a background check that's conducted by the FBI using their National Instant Criminal Database. Okay. That's what we're doing. But as we know, come January 1st, we got a whole new and improved background check system, right? Because now the Washington State Patrol will be conducting all of our background checks. So what really is different? Well, it just so happens that on December 6th, there was a committee meeting of the House Civil and Judiciary Committee, and they had a representative of the Washington State Patrol there to answer some questions, primarily about, hey, is this system even ready to go? Because we're only a few weeks out from being able to have and launch this. Is it ready to go? And in response to one of the representatives' questions, this is what we learned.
So the federal check could obviously include other states, like if somebody had a firearms conviction in a different state. As far as what is going on with this new system that we have set up, do you know if they're also checking to see if somebody has had, firearms convictions in other states, or are we just specifically looking in Washington?
No, we are actually checking all states. We do what is called a NICS check. Which does check all states. This piece of the puzzle that we did in forming a centralized point of contact is actually forming where we're doing an enhanced background check. The FBI did not have access to our local mental health records, did not have access to some of the juvenile records. So forming this actual centralized point of contact means that we can have all Washington records plus all other state records. So it's a much more enhanced, better background check and more consistent.
Okay, did you catch that? Because here's what we now know. Instead of you being run through a NICS background check by the FFL that is actually conducting the sale, instead they will notify the Washington State Patrol, and the Washington State Patrol will conduct a NICS background check. And for that, by the way, there is an additional fee. I believe it's $8. So all of you get to pay to have a third party now conduct literally the same background check that your FFL was capable of conducting. That is what the Washington State Patrol background system is. Now, you did hear that there are some other things, like on NICS, they don't have access to mental health records. They don't have access to juvenile records, which of course begs the question for all of you who are out there preaching for universal background checks, how good are your universal background checks when you're not even checking all of the databases? What I want you to be aware of, though, in Washington State, and this is really important, okay? And this is primarily going to be people who maybe had a rough childhood, did some stupid things. And I have seen this happen with a great deal of frequency in the last couple of years now, and I want you to be aware of this, is that a lot of times when young people are busted for juvenile felonies, yes, it's a felony. You lose your right to possess a firearm. There are a lot of systems in place for juveniles that once they reach majority age or a certain period of time goes by, yes, they will vacate convictions, they will seal convictions, they will expunge convictions. The idea is that if it really is an isolated incident as a young person, let's not strap them with the criminal history moving forward as an adult that will affect their ability to get into school or make an income or anything like that. And I recognize where the law is coming from that. However, just because you got your records sealed or expunged or the conviction vacated does not necessarily mean, and in many instances does not mean at all, that you had your Second Amendment rights restored. And so what we are seeing now is people who had their juvenile records sealed were able to purchase firearms for a number of years. Suddenly, it's popping up again in the system because there is no order of restoration. And not only are they being denied on a firearm purchase, in some instances they're getting letters from local law enforcement saying, hey, you're ineligible to possess a firearm, so I know you got 11 firearms that you purchased over the last 7 years. You have to surrender all of them. So if you, in fact, have one of these old juvenile things, you probably should contact an attorney who understands restoration issues and be prepared that this may create issues. Now, the same goes for anybody who may have had a stint in a mental health facility. If you take a look at Washington law, it is involuntary commitments, okay? That is where you were forcibly placed into a mental health facility that will preclude you from owning a firearm. There are also certain mental health defenses, such as insanity and things like that will preclude you, okay? A voluntary admission or just working with a regular mental health counselor, that should not be excluding you from possessing or owning a firearm. So you need to be aware of that. So the bottom line is that while the state of Washington is going to tout that they have a much more improved, enhanced background check, yet they're really relying on the exact same records that your FFLs used to rely on. Okay, once again, that new State Patrol background check system is supposed to go into place January 1st. Now, I've been told by a couple of FFLs that they will be running some background checks through it in their next couple weeks to test it to make sure. But listen, this is the reality of the situation. Is every time I've watched some other jurisdiction try to change the way they're doing a background check and change all their databases, things like that, the first 4 to 6 months is nothing but an unadulterated disaster. All the more reason with that and the new waiting periods and the new educational requirement that if you're in the market for a firearm right now, now is probably a really good time to get down to your FFL. Listen, we'll link up all the information, including the committee meeting that we talked about down in the description box so you can geek out on it for yourself. If you got any other questions about this or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, you guys should know how to get a hold of Washington gun law by now. If you don't, that's okay. That information is right down there in the description box as well. Now, let's everyone remember that part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation, how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching and stay safe.